Hello and welcome to another video where we are talking about stages of awakening. In this video, we are going to get into DNOTS, or the dark night of the soul. This one it's an intense phase or stage of awakening. It really is. Before we get into it, my name is Devon. I help people navigate the spiritual awakening journey and embody the divine self as much as possible. So welcome. Okay, DNOTS, Dark Night of the Soul. This, in my opinion, can be probably the toughest phase of awakening. Um, in my experience, and quite a few others that I've talked to about this, it's common to experience a dark night before awakening and then a dark night after awakening. And the one before awakening is where it's where all of a sudden you feel like something's missing. You feel like there's something more to life that it's one of those like I know there's something more, but I don't know what it is. And so you can look at your situation and be like, okay, I don't like my job anymore. I'm not fulfilled. I don't like, for me, I was in school at the time and I was like, I don't really know if this path that I've chosen is really the path that I want to take. But I've spent so much time doing it and all of that. And so it can be really tough because what's happening oftentimes is it's the ego and the soul self kind of fighting. So the ego wants to keep everything in a certain way. The ego likes control over life and over certain things. And then the soul is starting to speak through and saying, hey, this there's a different path you can take that's more fulfilling. And the ego's like, but I've been working on this for so long. This is who I am. And it's that identity. And it's like, but this is what I've been doing. This is what I planned on. And I mean it can show up in all sorts of different ways. It can show up in relationships, it can show up in your location. So all of a sudden you're looking around and you're like, I don't want to live here anymore. Sometimes it'll be a house, sometimes it'll be a city, sometimes it'll be a state where, or a country, whatever, where you're like, I don't really want to live here anymore. I want to, and sometimes you don't even have the awareness of where it is you do want to be, but it's the awareness that you don't want to be where you're in some form of life. And so that's oftentimes right before the awakening happens, will be that dark night of the soul. And so what that does is that starts to trigger this want for more out of life, but not really knowing what that means, not really knowing what that looks like. But it's just knowing that something isn't working now. Then what happens is you go through this beautiful awakening process and you get signs and synchronicities. You go through some other phases. Sometimes you do the signs and synchronicities, you wake up, you understand that there's more going on, and then all of a sudden you hit a different dark night. And this dark night after the spiritual awakening, it's it's called the dark night for a reason. Like it can feel very dark. Um And the purpose is to really allow that ego to break down a little bit and to make space for your spirit to come through, for your soul to come through and to shine and to tap more into internal approval versus external approval. Um, there's another video that I will link where I go into like the ego versus the soul self. And so if you're kind of wondering like what exactly is she talking about, I'll link that below as well. Um so let's get into some more details on this. I'm gonna peek at my notes here. We've got yeah, it's painful triggering situations intended to help integrate the ego. So what has to happen for the ego, which is the persona that we wear. It's the identity self that we have either been given by you know, our family of origin, the society around us, or it's, who we've decided to be. Um, our career, our, identity in a family, um, even down to the location you live, things of that nature. So this is really about integrating it. But what has to happen first before it can be integrated is it has to be seen, and it kind of has to be like, it's kind of broken down in a way to be integrated. Um, and yeah, so first you have to see your ego. You have to see how it's ran your life. And you have to see the programs and limiting beliefs that are behind it. So oftentimes the ego it's based out of lack mentality, limiting beliefs. It's the I have to do things a certain way because I've been told, or I've told myself that I'm not worthy of more, or um yeah, yeah. Mainly it's kind of a defense mechanism pretty much on, well, I would love to do this thing, but I don't believe that I can because of these limiting beliefs and these programs that are running in the background. So this leads to the discovery of the spiritual world. That's ultimately what the goal is to help give you the awareness that there's a whole other world that we don't really see with our like naked eyes. Um, but there's so much more to life than just this physical realm. And so that's the biggest goal of the Dark Night of the Soul. Um, so some examples of the triggering events that can happen after an awakening is coming to the realization of, these are examples. Maybe finding out that you're in a relationship with a narcissist. Maybe finding out that you come from a family of origin that has, narcissism prevalent, something of that nature. Um, it can be, or just, toxic people around you. Maybe you're a giver and you're surrounded by takers that are just take, 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 and you like giving, and so you just give, give, give to the detriment of the self. So it's really starting to become aware of these dynamics that are draining your energy, that are prohibiting you from really tapping into your full potential. And the key here is to come to the awareness and do your best not to sit in a victim mentality, in a victim state, and to allow yourself to feel what you need to feel, and then also allow yourself to become empowered and to take control of your life in a soul-centered way. Um, it can also be a job that's soul-sucking. Um, or like I gave the school example, maybe, you have been doing, going to university and doing this thing because that's what you were told you're supposed to do, and that's just the expectation. And then you're looking around and you're like, well, I don't really want to do this though. I would rather, I just heard like be a surfer, whatever it is. Um, it can also be meeting a soulmate or a twin flame that can spark this. Um, it can also be where maybe so this is where it's called the divine storm. Not everybody goes through this. I was lucky enough to go through this. It was brutal. But you can all of a sudden lose your home, lose your job, lose your friends, lose your pets, lose it appears that way from the ego self. So it's your entire world starts to crumble. That's what it appears to be from the ego self. It's all of these things are being taken away. I'm losing all of this. It can feel like your life is falling apart. And really what's happening is your life is well, spirit's coming through and helping remove things that are no longer serving, that are not in alignment with who you are shifting into being. And so the more you fight it, the more intense it can become. And so having the awareness of, okay, this is not in alignment with me, so I'm going to allow it to move and shift into something that is in alignment, that can make this process a lot easier. And that's really kind of the purpose for this whole video, is to just let you know that do your best to surrender and go with it. Trust in your higher self, trust in your spirit team, the divine, whatever you work with. Trust in that spiritual guidance that you're being given, because what's happening is these things that are not fulfilling you are being removed so that you can step into an energy where you are attracting the things that do fulfill you, that do light you up, that do let your soul sing. Yeah. Oh, it can also be health issues, and it can also be people dying. And or passing away. Yeah. Um, but that can also kind of trigger this awakening process as well. Is when somebody close to you passes away, it can make you question, what's after this experience, what's going on here. Um, and then that causes you to go within and really come to your own understanding of what is going on, what your own personal beliefs are, things of that nature. Um, oh, yep, talked about the divine storm. Um, okay, so I will go ahead and give you an example of my divine storm. Mind you, this happened in a period of probably, I want to say 6 to 8 months. I had a person who was close to me pass away very unexpectedly. Um, I realized that the degree that I was going for, I didn't really want to go that track anymore. I had to, I had to, yeah, there's the ego. Um, I was pushed into a position where I moved from my home, and it was one of those, I knew it was in my highest good to move, but I was fighting it. And so it just made it a lot harder when it happened. I, golly, what else? It was a lot. It was a lot. Yeah, there was, yeah, I basically, in a sense, lost all of my pets within a very short period of time. I had to rehome my dog, and then my cats died, and then we had to rehome our, big fish tanks, and, all of our chickens died, and it was back to back. It was a back to back situation. Um, and then I had an NDE, which is a near death experience, and I fell about 10 feet. Um, I was climbing on a ladder to get on the roof to help fix some siding, and the ladder slid as I was stepping onto the roof, and I didn't make it onto the roof. So I free fell about 10 feet and landed on top of the ladder, which is on top of concrete, and I broke myself pretty good. I had a huge health journey. Um, that it was a healing journey, a physical healing journey. It was very, very difficult. And it was all these things that literally happened within, I think it was about 8 months of just back to back situations. And it was one of those times in life when, if you hear somebody that are like, this happened and this happened and this happened, you're like, you just can't even catch a break. And it's that kind of vibe where it's literally just back to back to back. And what's happening is, it's for me, part of the healing thing was I had to learn how to ground into my body and really enjoy the physical experience of being a human. And what better way to do that than to not be able to, walk consistently for 3 years. So now I'm at a point where I can walk and very mindful. I listen to my body. I was really bad at not listening to my body before that. And so now I was forced to listen to my body and check in and say, can my physical body handle this thing that I want to do? Um, And so now I go for my walks, and I'm very grateful every time that I can do that full walk and not have pain and, all of this other, stuff going on physically. So what what's happening from the spirit perspective when all of this goes on is, one, you need to understand, or it's good to understand, I should say, that your higher self is helping to run the show. And so you're not going to be put through things you cannot handle. So just remember that. The other thing is everybody is different in this phase of the journey, and so you are going to be given exactly what you need to be given in order to fully release, let go, and surrender, and allow your spirit and your higher self in to really bring other things into alignment. But first, you get to let go of what is no longer in alignment. And that's where that ego self holds on and is like, but I really like this thing, but I really want to stay in this house, but I really want to stay in this job, but I really want to stay in this relationship, whatever the case may be for you. That's where that kind of ego battle versus the soul battle comes in. And the more we can talk our ego through letting go and releasing and surrendering a lot of this, the easier the process is. And I'm speaking from a perspective of, I have a little bit of a stubborn streak. And so I didn't want to let go of certain things. But I was also so committed to this journey at this time that I was like, this is the journey. I want the spiritual awakening journey. I want this beautiful journey. But my ego was like, but I also want to hold on to these things that are not conducive to this journey. And so, from experience, I would highly recommend do your best to surrender, listen, and allow these things to just fall away, because then it's not as hard on the ego when you just kind of say, okay, we're going to listen to spirit, we're going to listen to the divine, we're going to listen to the universe, we're going to listen to the higher self, whatever you work with, and we're going to allow these things to go, because I trust and surrender and know that things that are more in alignment, that are fulfilling at a soul level, will come in. And so that's just going through what I went through. There's other people that are on the awakening journey that did not have to go through that massive divine storm. And so, but if that's part of your journey, then, just do your best to go with it. Do your best to find something in every day that you can smile about. Some days are going to be harder than others to do that, but that's really, really, it will help to anchor in this new energy that's trying to make its way into your life, that's way more fulfilling than you can fathom at this moment. Okay. And then ultimately, what all of this does is this pushes you into a way where you can start to really live and embody your life purpose in whatever way that is for you, and really allow that soul fulfillment to come through. And then integration happens, and it's a beautiful thing. And it also helps to force authenticity. And that's the other thing too, is with this ego concept of not wanting to let go of certain things. It's because it's a how do we term it? It's a story that we're telling ourselves that makes us, it gives the illusion of being safe, is really what it is. And so the ego's job is to keep you safe and alive. That's the job. So it's not a bad thing. You want your ego. Your ego will keep you safe. That's its ultimate goal, is to keep you safe, keep you alive. The thing is the ego is limiting in the sense that it also is scared of change. It's also scared of the unknown. And the soul knows that growth does not happen in that bubble. Growth does not happen in the comfort zone. And so if you are on the spiritual awakening journey, ultimately what you did, what you signed up for at a soul level, was to come here and to experience all of these things and to grow and expand and to be your most authentic version, so that, you can help the planet basically and help other people and shift into this, energy where you're having fun with life, where like things are always going to happen because that's life. We're always going to experience contrast. Once you get to this place of being able to be authentic, it's so much easier because the ego has to worry about what if I show up in this way and then this person doesn't like me. The soul self knows that that doesn't matter. Like some people are going to like you, some people aren't. That's okay. That's resonance. That's a vibration thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. Um, and so it's a lot of surrendering. And so that's the main thing is through the dark night, just do your best to surrender, to go with it, and to know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes you can't see it because it feels so dark. And in that moment, you are the light. And that's the biggest thing is when life feels so dark, that's when you get to look at yourself and go, it's dark because I'm the light and I'm being asked to go within and to shine my light and really step into this energy of being my true, authentic soul self. With that, I've got nothing else for the dark night. I know there's a lot more that we could dive into. So if you feel like I missed some big stuff, let me know in the comments below. Um, and yes, just know that sending you all the love going through this phase. It's not easy. It's really not. Just know that you will get through this. You will get through the dark night. And it's going to be beautiful and awesome. And also continue to ask for the glimpses of the light at the end of the tunnel, and you'll be given little glimpses here and there. So just do that as well, and that will help. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to leave this here. I hope this helps, and I will see you in the next video where we get into another phase of awakening.